So the first one was the little black rooster, and then the second one is this one. We're butchering.
And so tell me how you caught them.
We caught them both by the tail.
And these are really wily little buggers. These little bantams. They were raised by a mama, and so they're very swift and shy. But they're definitely roosters. The way you can tell they're roosters is that the hair or the feathers on their neck are very long and thin, whereas the ones on the hens are short and fat.
And the mom used to be friendly, but now she's wild like them.
So we're gonna go ahead and butcher these. Good job, my girls are amazing chicken catchers. Because these are stinking hard to catch, and they caught them by themselves. And then what did we put on their feet?
Zip ties.
Zip ties. Why do we do that?
Because they have to not move.
Because if they get off the string, they can't run away. So we don't have to catch them again out in the open, right?
Yeah.
And why do we butcher them up in the front yard instead of in the backyard?
Because it's easier.
That, and do we want the other chickens to see them die?
No.
We don't want the other chickens to be scared and to see them die. So we don't want to stress them. Instead of using a killing cone, we use the string. And it's just easier for me to be able to walk along and cut heads off rather than worrying about that. And it's really nice to be able to do it under the tree because it's cooler. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go ahead and butcher these ones. And then I'm going to have the girls pluck them. So we'll take some more videos in a second. Before I go get the chickens, I have the water boiling. It should be just under a boil, a nice little simmer. And it has to be that hot for each of the chickens. When you do your chickens, you need to have the little garbage catchers in the bottom. You do not want, see if I can find my other one. You do not want anything going down that sink from those birds because your feathers will clog the sink. So make sure you have those in there. You want one big bowl for innards and another bowl for gizzards and heart and liver, whatever the innards you want to eat. I save the feet, and I will show you how to dip them in just a minute. I have a laundry basket out here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk along and cut their heads off. It would seem easier just to cut their throats, but sometimes you don't get it quite right. So if you just cut the heads off, it seems pretty certain they're dead at this point. So everybody's hung up with a slip knot. I just have them up here on the trees. It's really nice to have this shade when you're butchering. So I cut the heads off. I let them flap around for a bit. And once they're done flapping, because you don't want them flapping when you dip them in the water. So once they're done flapping, I undo the slip knots. I put them in the laundry basket, and then I take them in the house to dip. Okay, so after the birds stopped twitching under the tree, I was stupid and I didn't move the basket. I had it under when I actually butchered them, so sorry for the bloody basket. You want a really deep pot. If your pot is not deep, then your water will overflow when you dip them. You want it to protect your counters and your stove and everything. And if you take it outside instead of leaving it on the heat, then it cools down too quickly. You need it to stay the perfect temperature. So I'm going to show you on the Banty. Oh, I should have started on a lighter colored bird. So what you're doing is trying to get those feathers all wet. And if you leave it in the water for too long, it starts to cook your bird. So the hardest ones to get are the ones on the legs. So there's one done. You want to get underneath the feathers, but you don't want to cook them. So I will try this on a lighter bird. Hopefully you can see better now. Okay, so I'm swishing it around and pulling it out. And the reason I swish it around and pull it out is so I can see just how much saturation there is. It's hard to see your saturation if it's in the water. So those legs need done just a little bit better. And that's how long it takes. It's seconds, not minutes. So And here's a bigger bird. They are a little easier because at least you can put them down in the water. But again, you have to make sure every single part of them gets hit, because the part that doesn't get hit is the part that's going to be really, really hard to pluck. And when you're having to get the help of children, it's really nice to have it be easy for those feathers to get plucked. I do most of the plucking, but the girls are coming along pretty well. So I'll just show you all of them. You kind of have to be careful not to get burnt. Get the legs really, really good. But again, don't overdo it. It'll cook your bird. Then I put them all in the laundry basket again so I'm not dripping stuff on my stairs. I can turn the water off at this point. And now I need to get a little saucepan of water going at the same temperature to put the feed in. See how dirty that is? Can you? I don't know. Maybe you can't. It's the color of mud. It's really kind of gross. Because I need to do the same thing to the feet. Because I'm going to peel the feet. So I'm taking these outside, rehanging them in the spots that they were, and we're going to pluck them.
Part.
I don't think it's that bad. As long as your water is not too hot.
Yes, then the skin will end up cooking rather than relaxing.
And then it tears. This is what happens, right? Can you see it right there? If you do it too hot. So it needs to be just under a simmer. Come on, Kaya, what are you supposed to be doing? Come on.
This is where
Go take your coat off and come back out. I see that it is distracting you. So
feathers end up building up on your hands and you'll end up with a glob. Let's see if I can get this to build up. Okay, so pulling, feathers will end up building up. You cannot get those off. And so that's the frustrating part. You don't end up with any.
And Mom has blood on her face.
I do, don't I?
Did you want me to get you the self-portrait?
So
the camera, I'll get you a self-portrait while you're talking about this. You're gonna look. Yes.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Oh, we're in the shade. We can't even see the speckles. She looks like she just killed a flock of chickens. Yeah. You know, it's great.
What else was I going to say? And so everybody comes out and helps. You want to do this early in the morning as possible because you'll have bugs. If you try to do this in the summer, it has to be cool or else you'll have bugs start to try and get at your meat. So you want to get them indoors as soon as possible. So the whole family is plucking. I'll be the only one who is killing and gutting them, but everybody else is plucking them so we can get them in the house.
It takes 4 pluckers to keep up with one.
Well, this will be an all-day project for me, but there won't be bugs in the house, so. This is what they look like when they come in from outside. So they're not perfect yet. I finished plucking them. And I wanted to say, make sure to have your sinks scrubbed. And then right after you're done dipping everything, wash your pan, because a lot of that blood and dirt will actually grime onto your pan. Keep your whetstone close. And I've got everything cleared off and ready to go. And this will probably take me all day. Make sure you have something fun to listen to. Like I like to listen to Paul Wheaton when I'm butchering. I just put it onto my smartphone and listen to it as an iPod. And make sure to have some kind of food available that day. It's very hard to butcher and have to cook meals for the family. So I will probably send Mr. Dirt off to feed the girls in town when it's time for lunch, and I will just eat energy bars or cheese or something like that in order to get this done. Okay, once you have them plucked, what you have here in this skin is your major blood vessels and their esophagus and feeding tube and their gizzard. So you can save all that, but my family doesn't really like that skin on the roosters. It's not so bad on the hens, but it's very thick on the roosters. So what I do instead is cut that part off up to the gizzard. Then I split down the top. Oh, and I wanted to mention something. If you have any kind of problems, like in winter, sometimes a problem can be lice on your chickens. And so by putting them in that boiling water or near boiling water, it kills all the lice. One year we had mites really bad. And by having, where's my other knife? By having that dip them dipped in that, it makes it so that it kills all the lice. Not that they are the kind of lice that like people, but they're still lice, and they crawl around. They crawl around on your skin, and you have to go take a shower to get them off. And it's not a big deal because you won't get lice. However, it is kind of gross. Okay, so there's the gizzard. And because you're pulling it out from the other end, you kind of just want to separate that membrane so that it will be easier to pull from the other side. So at this point, I turn it.
Now, did you explain?
You might want to do it from the back.
Did you explain not cutting the crop while you're in there?
You don't want to cut this. This is the crop.
It's got all the bile and...
It doesn't have bile in it. It doesn't have bile. This is its stomach.
Yes.
This, it doesn't really digest here. This is just a waiting spot before it goes to the gizzard.
Right.
So this is the crop, and it's just a holding spot. You're going to want to come over here to be able to see. So at this point, I go like this and pull it forward. Otherwise, these legs are going to be in your way this whole time. So you pull that forward, and you look for the end of the breastbone right here. Now, if your knife is pointy, you have to be really, really careful not to cut and poke anything intestinal. So here's your body cavity, and you need to go through the body cavity in order to be able to get your fingers in there. And then I tear at that point because I don't want those knives in there. So at this point,
that's where it gets colorful.
No, you're fine where you were, honey.
I mean, just let me do the camera. You're good. Go.
At this point, you are going to cut around the anus. So you're going to find this. This is the pelvic bone right here. There's one on each side, but there's nothing in the middle here. So at the tail, you're going to lift up and cut down towards the backbone like that. Then you're going to come to the side and cut around that side. Okay, so now I'm inside that membrane. And now you can see this is the colon. This here, this white thing that my finger is looped under.
This.
But you don't need to touch it. And you have to watch very carefully that you don't puncture it, and you're going to cut towards the backbone. Okay? Then, it's harder if you have big hands to do this. You reach up, and there's no way for them to see this. Mm-hmm. What you're reaching for is to pull everything down and out. And watch the crop. So because I pulled that away, I loop my fingers through the intestine, and that pulls out. See, there's the crop right there. Now what I have left in here is the, what's this called? Windpipe.
Esophagus?
Well, the esophagus, isn't that the part that is the vocal?
Windpipe.
Anyway. So then I have to reach and pull this one out. This one is always quite stubborn. So usually I leave it the last. There we go.
And just think, everybody, this is what happens in a factory hundreds and thousands of times a day.
So inside there you can see two little white things. Can you see it?
Yep, all the way to the end.
Those are testicles. 1, 2, testicles. So those need to pop out too. And then from there, you just pull everything out. And because you did that little sidey thing, starting out with the colon, all you have to do at this point is
Show them the colon and the intestines.
I am right here.
Right there. Okay.
So you're holding it with your finger to protect the colon.
Better come back around it. Okay.
And you cut around it. And that's it. So now you find the heart, pull the heart off. If you want the liver, this is the liver. Sometimes I pull the liver off, sometimes I don't. You want to be careful about the bile right here. Right here. You don't, the green thing.
Green thing, yes. And then the gizzard.
So this is the other half. Yeah, did I say that in the beginning? Did I say the crop was the gizzard in the beginning?
Not sure. Just to avoid any confusion, I'm sure it was said.
Okay, so now this is the gizzard. You cut off one tube. I don't know what these tubes are, except they're intestinals, because what goes in is food and what comes out is poop. This is where all the digestion on a chicken happens. And we'll clean that up in a minute. So at this point, this chicken is finished, except for the Pope's nose. So you come and you hold.
Which is not the tail, it's the little point above it.
It's just an oil gland.
And if you leave it on,
Apparently it taints things.
makes everything really nasty tasting.
So that one is finished.
Okay.
Ta-da! Okay, I think you can turn
Looks
it off.
tasty, huh?
I think you can turn it off.
I don't know.
So we're ready to do the legs. When you do the legs, you don't want it to be boiling water. You want it to just be staying warmish. So I turn it to low, and they can only be in there for just a second. So honey, grab me a bowl. Grab me a big bowl. No, a big bowl.
Big. There's only a little.
Hand it to me, please. Okay, when you put them in, they can only be in there for just a second. If they're in for longer than a second, it will cook them.
I thought you were making pea soup.
Nope.
Well, I thought.
So you only want as many as what you can keep hot.